Hello, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 12 of Rewind with Ro. I'm your host, Ro Carter, and my amazing co-host,
Rob Smith.
in the house. Sorry, everybody, we've been on a little hiatus, but we're back. So trying to close it out strong. BET has done an amazing show, Diarra from Detroit, and we are going to do the final, kind of close it out. The last season finale was earlier this week. So we wanted to close out the show because we got into it and stuff like that. And then, talk about what we're going to do in the future. There's some good movies coming out now. So we got some things coming up. We're going to be great. Anyway, how's your week been, Rob? What you been up to?
Week has been good. I just got a haircut, so I feel renewed. You know that feeling? I feel fresh and clean. Just got my hair cut. It's so important. I cut my own hair last week because my barber was out of town. And it's not the same feeling. It's not the same feeling.
All right. Hey, if you can't get the back, it's one of those things.
Oh, I do the double mirror. You got to stand in front of the mirror.
You got to have a good mirror to really, otherwise.
How about you, bro? How's your week been?
I just played golf today. For the first time, I played 18 holes of golf. I played golf before, but like 9 holes, or just like I've hit, played putt, stuff like that. But I played my first 18 holes of golf, and I am tired. I could have stopped at 9. I don't know. I was like, all right.
How do y'all do that? You stand out there in that.
It wasn't bad. Today in Miami, it was it was beautiful though. The golf course. I'm gonna post some pictures later, but it was really amazing. Like, you're walking around like, wow, this is nice. You get it. And in Miami too, it was like it wasn't like hot. It was like, it's perfect.
Yeah, that's what I'm sports. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah. And again, by 9 holes, I was like, we can leave. I'll be fine with that. You got 9 more. And I'm like, yay. So happy. But I did all right. I'm okay. But I'm looking forward to a nap after this show is done. So yeah, that's key. 4 hours, bro, on the golf course.
That's too long.
3 o'clock to 8 o'clock. I was leaving a little longer. 3:30. We had 3:30 tea time. Yeah, 8 o'clock.
Way too long.
Yeah, 4.5. I was like, come on, man. There's so many things you can do with your life in that time.
So many. I can think of so many.
Right? So many things. Anyway, I digress. Going from there. So let's get right into it. Diarra from Detroit. We were following this show. We did a couple of episodes past couple of weeks. So we wanted to close it out because they had their season finale this week. So the way the show is going, Diarra, if you don't recall, was looking for the one night stand she had, the guy she fell in love with. She believed he was kidnapped. But now we find out more and more information that, wow, he might be the kid that was kidnapped, a long time ago. And so she's trying to put those things together. Since then, we've had our interaction with the detective who was actually following this case back in the day. So I kind of love in episode 6, 7, 8, you kind of see episode 6, they go back in time, which, listen, shout out to the writers here. They really did a good job. Sometimes you can butcher that, when you go back in time, like, let's go back in time and see a younger detective and see what was going on. But once again, the writing on this is amazing. They did a great job and kind of told his story about what happened then. And so now that puts the head of the Greek mob under a microscope, because they're like, hey, were you there and what's going on? So we kind of see how that unfolds. Later, that leads into a crazy mess, and you're seeing gangs come together because of this story and how it unfolds. So we'll go into like sections of it, but what did you think of like, hey, okay, now when we last left off, when we met, we spoke and there was like a shootout and she got in the back of the detective's car. Now we see it all of this unfold. Do you like where the story's going? You're like, oh God, now it's going to nonsense. What do you think about that?
No, like I said before, I think the writing on this project is impeccable. So whoever was in that writing room with her, they all did a phenomenal job, in my opinion. This show is so superbly done. I really did enjoy. They had that I usually hate it when shows do they play with film noir and then they play with exploitation era and another one. I usually hate it, but they actually weaved it into the show very, very well. And it feels like every moment has a very, very specific purpose in the progression of the film. And the other thing, I mean, in the show, and the other thing I also love about this show is they have all of these moments that are like dropped in, and somebody else like say like a memorable line or make a statement that is like, I was like, maybe I should incorporate that into my life.
I was gonna get into that. I'm gonna get into that a little later. I was like, oh, that's an interesting like phrase to describe somebody.
Yeah.
When Tease describes the relation. So we also left off, there was a party that who is that? Who's having that party?
Which party? There've been so many parties.
Aja's party that had at City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And so T takes the DJ home. And then a relationship from that unfolds that he doesn't really want. And then there's a phrase that he came up with this. He was, what is it? Hobosexual. He's a hobosexual. And I was like, what is it? I was like, he's a homeless man living at my house. I was crying.
Well, he took him home originally from that sex party. That's where they met.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
Mm-hmm. And led into something a little bit more, and he got kind of stuck in like, hey man, when you're like, you're denying that you want a relationship, but you're kind of like, hey, at this point, the person does everything for me. Why am I complaining?
He's doing everything. He's doing everything to fight off the idea that he might like him as much as he does. That's what's happening.
And that was funny to see that, and also from his point of view. And then, especially Diarra has her own like crazy stuff. She's in like a three-way love triangle that kind of unfolds more and more now. So originally she was going through the divorce through Morris Chestnut's character, Swa. And now she met Chris and she's trying to find Chris, but now she's like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then she falls in love with Danger and they hook up. So all this is going on. And then later on, there's a big snowstorm and they're all trapped in our house and they kind of, all these stories unfold. And Danger really gets open with her and saying, hey, I know something that I've been holding on since I was a kid, and that's why I always have a hard time in my throat because I'm holding on to this. In my subconscious, I just can't. I felt like I did something wrong. And then we find, are we giving away things here, or what are we doing?
I mean, I don't know if we should ruin the show.
Okay, so I'm not gonna ruin the show for anybody.
I will say this was the point of the show where I started to feel like I don't trust none of these people.
Yeah. Because
any one of y'all could have done this or been involved in this or knew what happened. I was like,
her ex-husband, you're finding out like he's involved too in ways, and you're like, I don't know, like who do you trust? Danger's involved with the gang, the Woodward Boys, right? He's a former member of them, and then and Velvet was his mentor as a kid, so he's tethered to her no matter what. And then Swa, he's all over the place. He's invested in a lot of this, right? So he kind of knows the back ends of everything. Who's really, moving the string, pulling the strings, and everything. Plus,
his cousin is the cop, is a police officer.
His brother's a cop.
Brother,
so his brother's a cop, so he knows all that too. So you're like, at some point, you're like, is Swa engaged with the chief? Like, what's going on with that? Velvet, what's going on? So that kind of unfolds, but you're kind of guessing like what is going on here. And then they reveal more and more things. Earlier, because the Russian man got shot, she had to dispose of his phone and threw it into the water. And so she has to meet with the head of the Greeks and the Greek mob guy. And he's like, listen, I need what you have. And she's thinking it's the phone, but finds out later when she unfolds in this package that's the younger kids that's been missing, she unfolds that there's an actual tape. And the tape has information on that can take everybody down. And so she has to decide what she's going to do with this tape. And that unfolds where people come into the house. And now it becomes just craziness all over the place. What do you think about that scene and how that was slowly unfolding?
Which scene in specific? Because there's
one later. But I mean, the original getting the tape. So now that there's a snowstorm. And now that was funny because we needed a tape deck. And no one has a tape deck anymore. So I kind of like that you're old and you're like, where's my tape? Yeah, I was like, do I have a tape deck still or Walkman? I thought about it.
I just love that the tape was Mary J. Blige, and it was because that was the one of the first albums one of the first CDs I ever got was that What's the 411.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yes, I remember. I got What's the 411, MC Brains, and one other I can't remember right now. But I got a radio for Christmas that had a CD player on the top and 2 cassette tapes.
You got the new one. That was a good one. That was
a good one. And that Mary for me is so nostalgic, and I love how they use Mary throughout the whole show too. They use all of these moments from like the 90s that are super nostalgic, so I love that too. But yes, that scene with everybody in the house was so good because again, it was the point where I was like, I kind of don't know who to trust now, because like you said, it could be Swag because he's connected to the police department. It could be Danger because he's connected to Violet and the gang. It could be I don't know. It could have been any of the guys in the room because you didn't know who to trust. And it was so good though because you got to see them all in that space interacting together and kind of like trying to solve the mystery. But because at this point now everybody is invested in it, when before it was kind of like everybody was piecemealing into it because everybody thought she was out of her mind. But now everyone's invested in this process. So it was a fun culmination of where we had journeyed to from the beginning of the series.
Yeah, and then we do see Felicia Rashad's character a little bit later in the season finale as well, which is nice. I wish there was more of her throughout the show.
No.
But for whatever, I like little. She was gangster. She still was gangster at the end. But see, now after the snowstorm, what's name's husband goes and gets his tape deck, and then he brings it back, and they're gonna play in the house. But before they're gonna play at the house, the Woodward boys gang come to the house, and they want the tape. And now she's guessing like who took the tape from me, right? Something goes on, and it was like those murder mystery movies where like, oh my god, who took the tape? And I thought it was Swag who took the tape, right? I was like,
I did too. I thought it was.
So he has his own investment too in it. So I was like, oh my god. So that was interesting too, because that could go such a wrong way. We're like, oh my god, this show, like, what are they doing? But they really played it well. I love that scene. It was like it reminded me of like one of those scary movies where like you don't know who's the murderer, right? But then people are having their moments, and you really get to open up, and they had those one-on-ones. So I kind of like how they worked, even though the tension in the room, because Swag's like, yo, what's up with Danger? And she's like, well, Danger and Swag, I like you, but that's my ex-husband. What's going on there? So playing back and forth on that. So that was really crazy and chaotic, but I kind of like how that scene, it kind of balanced it out. And you really got to learn more and more about the characters and how they felt.
You can't gloss over Aja and Keyshawn's.
Yeah. And then you have Aja been trying to keep back from having sex. And that scene was crazy.
Hilarious.
I don't want to give that away, but you got to see that. But her character is always another thing here. The characters are here, like they all have their moments, their shining moments in the show where you're like, wow, I can see all these characters can have their own individual shows, right? Because they all like take part of the screen at some point. Which it's hard sometimes when people have that balance. But I love that this show, everybody has space where they can be their own character. You're like, oh my god, I love that character. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, that was perfect. That's so them, or that's so him. So
you know why I think it works that way too? And I think it's the beauty of how they wrote the characters, because they showed people who traditionally get written in one way. So it really does show that we're not a monolith, right? So you have Danger, who's like who's gangster, but he still is like giving massages and like dropping knowledge on her and goes to therapy. And then you have you have Diarra herself, who's like this going through a divorce, but you feel like she's like this pulled together woman because she's successful. She got out of that, she was able to move out of her neighborhood and kind of like expand herself. And then she comes back, and now she's like up in this mess looking for a guy who she had a one-night stand with. So she's kind of like, but she's also at the same time right, like there was obviously something that happened. But I feel like all the characters are so complex, and it's like great to watch every single one of them because they all were written so well. So I'm really enjoying the
my girlfriend was like, Diarra, that girl's crazy. She's like, she needs to like just buckle down. She's all over the place. And I'm like, yeah, she is all over the place, but I kind of like that that's real. I don't think we talk about that enough, what a lot of Black women are dealing with, right? And it can be more mental, it can be this, relationship, whatever it is. but dealing with all that, and especially when her finances came into play, when she went into that poker tournament and she lost.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, now I'm broke. I'm back in my mom's house. I'm divorced. I'm working as a teacher. Like, I'm trying to like just figure it out. And I might be getting killed any day because people are trying to hunt me down. You know, it's like you're all over the place. And it's just like, is it worth it, right? And you're still like, it is crazy. I was like, you're right in a way, but I was like, no, I think that's just really the Black women's plight in America of like, hey, I have so many things I have to balance, and it's hard for me to do it, but I wind up doing it, right? That's how strong I am as a Black woman. I thought that's what that was telling me on the show.
Absolutely. And then you have Mr. T too. Like I think we talked about this before. He's not what you traditionally see as a gay character on the show, because he's masculine. He's not this gay presenting, extremely flamboyant character. So I think that, but he also is a guy who is running from the idea of relationship. He doesn't want to like buckle down. So he's not the stereotypical character that's written for the gay person on the show. So I love that they like experimented with really showing that people can be complex and shouldn't fit into like a box. So I think the writing is just so good.
So the Woodward gang comes in the house and they want the tape. They're going to shoot everybody in the house unless they get the tape. Things go a little awry and people are tussling, and a shot goes off and Mr. T gets shot. And he's like, oh, my stuff. And he's like, he got hit in his knee, but he was like, hey, man, they hit my stuff. He's like, man, you don't know how big my stuff is. And he was just funny, on point. It was a really funny character. And then he kind of breaks down. I was like, hey, call my partner, let him know I'm hurt, you know, and all that stuff. And I was like, there you go. And it's kind of funny, right? In life, we realize that we need somebody like when, you know, the stuff hits the fan, or you're alone, you have no one with you, and you're vulnerable. And I love that scene because he was like, I'm vulnerable, I need him. And, you know, you didn't want him, but now you need him, you know? So it was a really funny moment at that time, even though it is a real, like, you know, oh my God, danger, he could die, but trying to figure it out. So that scene happens, and then we kind of go on to finding out how is it really going to unfold. Is Chris still alive? And we're kind of leaning to like, wow, he might still be alive because Velvet cared for the kid when he was a kid, right? So even though the point was to get him and set him up, she was like, you know, I'm not going to let that happen on my watch. And so that unfolds a little bit more. Sorry, I'm tiptoeing because I don't want to give away like all the.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, like, how do I do this and I'll give away too much? But this leads into a scene, you know, at Velvet's house, where the mob, the Greek mob now, is going to fight the Woodward gang. And then there's a huge shootout scene that's crazy. I thought that was really well done. I actually watched behind the scenes.
Me too. I was gonna bring that up.
She said they did that in one take, and I was like, wow. And I was like, and everyone's like, oh, I'm shocking how it was well done, you know, for such a small budget in a tight window, what they needed to do. But it was interesting. Now he had a shootout scene. So for this show, kind of goes off the rails sometimes, but in a good way, you know. And it's so well written and tightly put together. They're like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I understand that. This isn't as chaotic as it seems on the screen, but it could be, you know? We've done so many movies and so many shows like, oh man, they had me, and then they just went, woo, over there. But I love that. I don't know if it's because it is Detroit, right? And we're still learning more and more about Detroit. Like, I only know a few things about Detroit, but I kind of love that this show shows every side, right? The good side, the positive, the negative, but also like, hey, it's a community just trying to survive at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you think about that scene? Was it well put together? And was it missing anything?
No, the shootout scene was probably the shootout scene, and then the scene with her sitting down with Vonda. Those two scenes for me were like amazing. So the scene with Vonda I loved because I was sitting there. I can't remember the exact quote that Vonda said. It was something about like
oh yeah.
Where she basically says like the failure is in like not getting up to do something, like not moving into doing something. I was like, oh, maybe that's what I need to like. I got to get up and start doing the things that I want to do.
Your mission statement, right?
Yes. So I love that. You know, Vonda dropped that gem. That was Felicia Rashad's character, Vonda. And I so badly wanted her to say like, I'm on a hunt for your son. Like but she can't, she doesn't.
Yeah, that was it. If I could be upset about anything, I was like, why? And without giving it away, you know, we won't say whether or not Chris is found or not, but not knowing that, you know, he didn't say hello to his mom. Like, you know, like what's going on? Or she's not saying, hey, I'm looking for your mom. Like,
yeah,
looking for your son. Like, you know, I'm close. I met him. You know, that was very tough.
She's still not sure, so she doesn't want to give her hope and then let her down for a second time. So I feel like I understand, but at the same time, Vonda's so badass. Like I want her to be like, I think I found your son. Like help me, but she don't want to give her that hope, I guess. But the when it leads to Violet's house and they have the shootout. What's his name? The husband. He was getting on my dang on nerves. I'll tell you that.
So I was getting
No. Her best friend's husband.
Oh yeah.
He rolled up and almost ruined the whole thing, and then was standing there. They shooting. He's standing there, don't know which way to go. I was like, if you don't get down and cross to somewhere.
Well, I kind of like it. That's real, right? Because you like, hey, are we doing one thing? But next thing you know, I don't know what to do. I'm just trying to live and maintain. But I want to rewind just a little bit. Swa's character, Swa and Diarra come closer together, right? And so she's like, you know, you're my person. I've seen this now through all the craziness that you're fighting for us. And I didn't really believe that he was fighting for them. I think he was trying to make sure he was clean and that she was clean. And in a way, he cared for her, but I don't know if it was like him fighting for them. I think he was making sure she didn't get hurt. But I don't really think he was fighting for them to get back together. I think he was just making sure, hey, I want you to be safe, and I don't want to mess up my business as well.
Well, I think he keeps leaving the door open for her to like make that decision. But I think it's pride from him. He's like, he doesn't want to admit the mistake he made in the relationship. She's finally starting to admit that she wasn't perfect in the relationship, but I think he has too much pride and he's not going to be like, I want you to come home, even though I think he does. Because when they have that scene in the bathtub, you can tell that they both really miss each other and they both miss their relationship. And
they made the jokes of, you know, when you're catching up with a loved one you haven't been with in a while. Oh, I miss this about you. I miss that about you. And
yeah.
But I also love that you've seen the growth now of Diarra's character, right? Mm-hmm. He wants Swa later is like, hey, let's let go of the tape. Let's just not deal with this anymore. Let's just move on. She's like, no, I need to find answers. And I think, you know, in every relationship, when you break up and if you decide to get back together, there's a period where you try to figure your life out and figure out who you are. And that's who she was. She's like, listen, there's another side of me, right? And then, I'm going to give this away. Then she finds out that he had a vasectomy. And that, like, she was like, what? And she lost her mind. I was like, wow, that's a big, like, hello, red flag that you're not telling me and you married me and thinking that we could start a family, but now we can't. And so that's a huge secret to be like, yo, I sorry, I didn't know how to tell you. Like, what? Like,
isn't that the one you?
Well, that's why I'm saying I think he cared for, but not really trying to get it back together. Because that's like, why wouldn't you tell that person if you love them and cared about them? Why wouldn't you let them know right off the bat? You know,
because I think that's his character, and I think that's the complexity of his character. His character has to control everything, and he's very prideful, and he wants to be like the breadwinner. And I feel like he is a stereotype of a man for sure, but like in the worst kind of way. Like he really wants to be in charge in their relationship, and I think he's not willing to be the person who admits that he was wrong, admits the mistakes he made. And he didn't vocalize the fact that he had a vasectomy. He also isn't vocalizing the fact that he might want her to come home. He also, though he did vocalize the fact that he wanted to have an open relationship, but it's like, and that's the thing that kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back in their marriage. So he's not really admitting the faults that he has that aided in their relationship falling apart. So I don't think that he's going to outwardly say, I want you to stop doing this because you're on the hunt for a person you had a one-night stand with. And I'm telling you, I'm standing here telling you the door is open to come back home, but you're on this hunt for him. And you also at the same time have an emotional relationship with danger. Like, so he's too prideful to say what he really wants.
But yeah, and to add on to that, his brother mentioned earlier, was like, hey, How's it feel, Swat, to finally mess up? You know, and that hit differently, like, because he's always the perfect guy or the perfect image of what you should be. And so for him to finally mess up, his brother called him out, like, how's it feel? And so, yeah, that plays into what you just said. Yeah, interesting dynamics between the characters. I love that you're seeing every kind of like a strong leading black man, a black man in the hood, and someone who's just trying to get out. And then you also see that with the women too, right? Having good jobs, a career. Her friend has a great career, gonna work with the city and stuff like that. So I really love the levels in this. There's something for everyone in this show, and you can find a way out. It's just you have to look deep in yourself sometimes, right? And figure it out. Like, man, I'm better than this. I'm better than that. And it's also, it depends on your circle too. And this brought me to think about a lot of things and about friendships. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know that many, let alone black women that have solid friendships like that. Like, you can talk to a friend like that, like, challenge them and they still love you and respect you. Like, oh, forget her. She's, my sister's crazy. She's crazy. And I remember like some of the friends she's had throughout her years, and then I have my cousins, though, they have great relationships. I think it also depends on the level of maturity you're at, to really have that, because it's tough sometimes. If you had a tough upbringing, there's certain things you won't accept people to talk to you in a way, but sometimes that's the only way that person knows how to express themselves, right? And so
I think they showed that dynamic too, because when she came home and Moni was like, they had to find a way to reconnect, because, Moni felt like she had left her and she felt like, their relationship had fallen, they felt that their relationship kind of fallen apart when she had gone, with like the time between when they last seen each other. So I feel like they do show the struggle to like maintain those relationships, but then they were able to work through the differences and get back to a place of loving each other. So I do like that they show the journey of that friendship as well. And then with Moni being introduced to her new friendships with like Mr. T and Aja, and it was like a slow merger of those relationships, and it was a journey for that to happen too. So I think it was realistic in how they showed that. It wasn't just like everybody was lovey-dovey and friendly from jump. It took work for them all to get to where they are, but I think it was cool because now they were all sucked in for this purpose of her hunting down the man who she thinks might have ghosted her, but maybe he didn't, because something bad might have happened to him, and she thinks he might be this little boy who got kidnapped years ago. So it's like, what an odd thing to bring everybody together, but it actually works because the show is so well done.
Yeah, and then now that story's unfolding, and so at this point, we're like, Diarra, are you all in? Like, where are you at mentally in terms of like, hey, let's say you do find him and he is alive. What do you guys like? Can this work? Like, what do you have to build on, right? You find this guy now. Where do you go? Versus you have an ex-husband who's willing to be like, hey, I'm ready to do this again. I'm sorry for messing up. And then you also have Danger, who like gives you massages and cares for you in a different way. Listen, let me tell you something. Don't underestimate someone that massages you. That is life changing, because not a lot of
pancakes. He massages her. He does all the right things.
He was cooking and massaging. Cooking and massaging.
And also dropping, wisdom on her and giving her, he helped her through probably the biggest traumatic experience she's had, which was seeing someone get murdered in front of her. And he by himself like aided her through the trauma of that, because he's experienced so much in the streets of Detroit that he was able to like give her the I guess the wisdom that he had garnered over the years to help her through that space. Because like you said, like we laughed about, which was great, that they showed how, she's processing her trauma through trauma showers, but she can't get her hair wet. So that was the extent of her being able to deal with all the things.
That I thought about that too, like going back home versus like she had a nice shower and bath. Like, in the shower, like, oh. I was like, it's different when you got good money and you got like, you broke and you got a shower, it's a different shower. It's a totally different shower. I like that though. She was like, and now I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but that's an interesting question. So she has three options, but who do you think she's going to end up with? Because honestly, her and Chris, they don't really know each other that well. They had date, which was a really good date, but everything else that they experienced was her fantasies of him. So she's built him up to be the perfect man, but we don't know if he's perfect. I mean, he probably has a lot of trauma from being kidnapped and not really knowing who he was for years. So I hope they explore his trauma.
Yeah, that was a little deep. I don't know whether and when we go into a season 2, like I don't even know what does she become a detective now and there's not solving more and more cold cases? Like I don't know where you can go with the show from that, right? But I do love the dynamic of the friendships that are there. I love these characters, and I'd love to see maybe something else that they can do as season 2. It'd be very interesting. But the writing was amazing. I really think they hit it out the park here. I love seeing the different levels of melanin on screen, and just fun characters and fun people, and you care for these characters, right? And sometimes it's tough when you watch a show. You're like, okay, I don't care. But no, you're invested in. Hopefully, they figure out like Diarra's character. At some point, I'm like, girl, if you don't wake up and stop, like, how you keep getting yourself in these situations? Like, it's like a friend. You want to call it, like, stop it, cut it out. And T, I want to hang out with him. I'm looking forward to doing an interview with him soon because he was great. Brian, he was great on the show. He really knocked that character out of the park. So everybody was really well done. Anything else you want to add?
Who do you think she's going to end up with?
Well, if I do it based on the way the show ended, that would be giving it away. But what I will say is the person she has I think she used Danger. When you break up with somebody and you just have that, I just need to quit.
Rebound? You think he was a rebound?
Oh, 100%. 100%. 100% rebound. That is a rebound written a divorce? When you go through a divorce, first person that's a rebound, baby. That's a rebound. Unless it's a one-night stand, which the dude.
This was a one-night stand.
Chris would have been the one-night stand, but he disappeared. And so her investment was like, oh my God, I found somebody I can move on with and kind of do this, and let me figure it out. Danger is more of a childhood friend, so it's like it was easier for it to be a rebound because, like, listen, I've known him for so long, so I don't have to really worry about that. I think if Chris is alive and she finds him, I think she, like you said earlier, she's built him up to be this person that I don't think he can even live up to, right? And what's his situation, right? The right thing is Swa, even though he you have to deal with that, but I think you can work with that because you know the man you're gonna be with, but you're a little bit better off financially, in terms of stuff like that. So if that's what but hey, if you're like, you know what, I don't need that. I'm fine living in my mom's house. I'm a teacher. I can just live my life like that. Then so be it. But I think it's a lot easier to kind of go because you saw her. She was all up and down, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's nice when you have that one balance where I'm messing with a guy who's in a gang, right? Or I'm messing with a dude who you don't know what his past really is or how much trauma and drama he has or may bring your way, right? So at least you're guaranteed, hey, this is the more safer route. Then I more just have to focus on myself versus like focus on everything around me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, it's tough because Danger has a lot of
run. I'm gonna say this: run, move.
Yeah. Danger has a lot of trauma too. After we've realized all the stuff he's been holding in since he was a kid. Not gonna say too much there because that's also a spoiler. But yes, I don't know. I want to say who
would you like her to be with? Let's do that.
I want to say I want it to be Danger, but then I'm like, that's just gonna be so much. They're gonna need to be in therapy 4 days a week together.
Well, the good thing is Danger was going to therapy, right? So you saw that. We've actually seen a lady. That was hilarious. That's a good scene too. When he's talking to the therapist and she's like hood as hell, and that was funny.
Yes.
Like, the woman caused him trauma. I was lying. I was like, that's great.
Yeah, what she say? You let him finger you?
I was like, no. I was like, it's like she was like, she ain't even licensed. What you doing? Like, it was good. There's a lot of great banter back and forth and one-liners that are just like they're again, the writing's really great, really well done. They did a great job, and the characters listen, these actors, these are all up and coming actors and actresses that I think are, anything you're going to see them in going forward, they're going to knock it out the park. They really did a good job.
Well, I always say this too. Like, they're just, a lot of them are just names that you don't hear all the time, but they're not, because me, like, my resume is not as stacked as theirs, by any means, but they've been putting in the work. Like, they've been on shows, and now they all have like, some of them have had major parts on other shows too, but they're just not the names that you hear all the time. And I'm glad now they're the names that people are going to be talking about, because they all deserve it and they were all amazing. So yeah, kudos to the cast. It was great.
There you go. What would you rate the show, Rob?
Huh?
What would you rate the show?
A 10 out of 10.
Ooh, Robin, 10 out of 10. We missed a 10 out of 10 from young Robin. Oh, yes, another 10 out of 10. Excellent.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I'm going to say 10 out of 10.
The only knock I have, I've watched this show 20 million times because I fall asleep all the time. Diarra's voice is so soothing. I was trying to figure it out. My girl was like, "Are you watching this show again? Didn't you watch it?" I was like, "I'm sorry, I keep falling." Her voice is so soothing. I'm like, okay. She's like, because she's narrating too, which is a great job, because that can also go wrong. I mean, listen, she was able to pluck so many shows and put them all into one, and she did a really great. Shout out to her for the writing and just the acting too. That's tough, right? When you're a writer and an actor on the show, so. She did a great job. She is, her and Issa Rae. I mean, it's like a spitting image of Issa Rae, what she can do. So it's beautifully done. I give it a 10 as well. Nice job.
Wait, did you do it?
No. Oh, you got stars.
Or you can just do the single.
I'm giving Apple money all the time. I can't get anything.
You got to do like this, bro. You got to do like that. I don't know. Maybe there you go. Put them in the middle and put them up to this camera in the middle. Do it. No, like this.
What do you mean?
You're like one hand in the camera. Now go up. Now go. Ro, your Apple products are malfunctioning.
This one ain't cheap too. This is a big one. This is a big boy.
Oh my God.
Anyway, well, that's it. That's our show for this week. We have a big movie next week with Zendaya. What is she doing? We're going to do the Zendaya movie next week.
Challengers?
Yes. Challengers is in theaters, came out this week. I'm going to see that tomorrow with the girlfriend. So we will go see the movie and review it. So that should be interesting. And there's some other movies that are coming out soon. So it's going to be fun. So good stuff this time. And then the summer comes. Take a little break. Maybe not. Are you going to be here in Miami in the summer?
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. All right. There you go. Well,
we shall see.
That was it. Thanks again, Rob, for your time tonight. Thank you guys for whoever watched for a little bit. Appreciate you. And see you next week.
Peace.